You're not a true son of the living God? These same people speak to angels, fallen angels, who tell lies. Not all spirits are from God. We must test these people to understand what is the truth. If anyone tells you it's okay to pray to angels, run from them. They do not know Jesus, nor do they know God. Includes Mary, saints, people, relatives, ancestors. Also, are they not trying to cut off your connection between you and our Father? When a child needs something to eat, does he first go to the police officer and tell him, "I'm hungry"? Would you go and tell my father to feed me? Or would he just go to his father and say, "Dad, I'm hungry"? And if that child went to his father for food, would not the father find a way to feed him? A crying child will cut to the soul of any parent. Right? Will they not? You ever heard a baby crying? It's worse than a jet airplane engine. There's nothing makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up than a 2-year-old screaming and crying out. It gets everybody in the whole house. Shut that kid up, or feed him, or attend to his needs, whatever it is. Just stop that crying. It says, how about a nurse? A crying child will cut to the soul of any parent, will they not? How about a nursing mother? Will her baby go to the neighbor's house to say, "I need my mother's breast today"? No. He will cry out and she will feed him. I do pray for the nursing child today, for the breast has been taken away. Right? Well, everybody's got, Similac and all these fake breast milk and all that, and they don't raise their children through love, nurturing, compassion. A bond is broken between a child and its mother when the breasts are removed. And I'm not trying to be dirty or nasty. I'm trying to say being compassionately in love with something is okay. And it's okay to also be compassionately in love with yourself. And not just yourself, but with God. That's okay. People who are passionately in love with something are usually willing to sacrifice everything to obtain that thing. To obtain it. We should not want or need to pray to or have anything between us and God. If we do, we become adulterers. We have no other gods before our God, who is Jesus Christ. 2 things come to my heart when I think about true, passionate love. Would it look like when we are talking about our relationship with Jesus? One being our conviction that God is present through our prayers, and second being God can and will use us wherever we are, no matter whom we are. We just need to open to His will for our life. Moses was a man of little speech, a stutterer, a man who couldn't speak well to big crowds or big people. Right? Moses was a nobody, yet Moses stood in front of Pharaoh, the greatest king of earth. Says, "Let my people go." Says to Pharaoh, God is so compassionately in love with these people, He has deemed them His firstborn. And if you harm His firstborn, God will kill your firstborn. Right? want to tell you about the story from my life and from the life of our Father, Jesus Christ, our Savior of our souls, so that you are able to see and feel a true sense of what passionate love looks like. I want you to know I love Jesus with all my heart, my soul, and mind, and I have seen his mighty works here on earth in many different ways. I pray all the time now, every day, almost all day I talk to Jesus, even when I'm in the middle of nowhere. Recently, I went with some family members and friends to the high country of Colorado to the camp, to be the camp cook. On this elk hunt, and well, I went on this elk hunt with my friends. Sorry, I'm a little dyslexic. So I go on this elk hunting trip with my friends, right? And we're up there, and I go to be a camp cookie and tell stories and pray for everybody and keep things on the lighter side of life, right? And these people are unbelievers, basically. And, you know, I remember in the trip, one of my friends that was there, you know, we were there in the middle of the mountains, no man's land, and enjoying it, and all of a sudden here comes this another pack of hunters, and you got, you know, 10 millions of miles of mountain, and, you know, and I'm gonna park right next to you and blare my music and take away all the peace of God's country and turn this hunting trip into a pile of crap because of your neighbors, right? And so my friend's bitching and moaning and complaining, all mad that these people, how dare them come, and like, you know, we got enough neighbors down in the city, why you gotta go to the mountains for these neighbors? You know, we want to go be alone, see God. But anyway, by the end of the trip, you know, my friend had a change of heart and ends up, you know, giving them half our food and all these other stuff, you know. And I remember we're there and we're hunting, and we go out and we go to this furthest spot, you know, you could kind of go before you go into private land and that. So we're like way back in the woods, and there's nobody but us. Nobody came behind us, and nobody went so deep. And, you know, our friend, he's got to hunt to the last second of daylight and go way back in there as far as he can go. And, well, this is one of those times that was like his buttholeness of not respecting the rest of his camp fellas. Way out in the midst of nowhere, comes walking back to the truck about 8 o'clock at night, and it was dead dark at 5. So 3 hours after dark comes, the guy comes, and then we're all sitting around the truck and talking about how they didn't see anything, and although he walked the furthest, hunted the hardest, he saw the least. And driving out, and here I'm the guy who gets to drive the truck, and all the while I was there, I'm a passenger in the truck, and now that I'm finally the driver, you know, the good thing about being the driver is my hand is closest to the radio, so I play gospel music. Happens to be Sunday morning, we're playing gospel and all this, and I got this young guy who's sitting there with me, and not a believer in Jesus, and in fact, he has completely rejected the entire idea of Jesus, God, everything that has to do with God. So I'm playing the Christian music and that, you know, feeling the air full of God's presence and these things. And I prayed that morning, and God used me to do something, you know. And I'm out in the middle of wilderness. I'm in the middle of nowhere. Use me. Somehow, use me. I'm here. I'm willing to be used by you to show your awesomeness, your wondrous miracle working power in the middle of nowhere, right? And then, you know, 12 hours later, pulling out, driving up out of the road, and it's jet black dark, and we pass these 2 old men. And these 2 old men are like in their 70s. They are old and way too old to be lost miles and miles from their own camp. And somehow they got lost, and they're on the road there, and they're waving us down and stop, please stop, because if we pulled out and went out without them, those men would have been left for dead, basically. And I'm sure they would have never got out of the woods, because that's how lost they truly were. They had no clue where they were. And so we load them up in the truck, and they were so tired and so exhausted from getting lost and wandering through the wilderness, we couldn't even get in the truck. And we had to help them get up into the truck and everything. It takes them like 5 minutes to do, a young man's job. Just jeep, you're right in the truck. And these guys were next to dead through exhaustion. And thank God we came their way. That the true miracle was our willingness to stop, check them out, and not only that, how God used us to be at the right place at the right time at the right moment. We're in the midst of nowhere, in the middle of the mountains, and God used me. And then it was that night, our friend goes to the furthest part of all that he can go, comes in late to the truck, and all the things that God needed to happen. Because those men, one of those men, in his desperation, cried out. Whether it was out loud voice or within his heart, he says, God, deliver us. Deliver us. Help us. And help showed up. And who did help show up from or through? Me. A guy who loves God with all his heart, might, and soul. And we grab him, throw him in the truck, and we drive off, and they tell us, yeah, our camp's up here. Oh, yeah, we know these mountains well. Been here for 10, 12 years. We know every part of this mountain like the back of my hand. Take them right over to their camp, and he describes his camp and everything. It's right next to the bridge, next to the lake, on top of the mountain. And yeah, right there's the camp, right next to the bridge, next to the lake. Right there's your camp. And these two old men jump out of the truck and thank you, God bless you, we love you, thank you. And right there's the camp, and they turn and they're walking this way. Where are you guys going? Right there's your camp. No, that's not our camp. Our camp is up here. And they begin to walk down a road into total darkness, back into the wilderness, away from their camp. And on all of it, it was their own pride. Well, we can't admit to these young bucks that we're so stupid we got ourselves lost. And trying to take control over their own situation. No, that's not our camp, even though that is their camp. We're walking back off into the darkness, into the wilderness. We're walking away from your instructions, your guidance, your salvation, your help. And what created it? The pride of their own heart. I can't admit I was wrong. I got lost. I am broken. I need help. Can't admit it. And some of the problems within our lives is we can't admit the things that we are doing. It's not just hurting the people around us, but it's hurting me the most. And when I am hurt, God is hurt. God is suffering. When we see Jesus Christ hanging on the cross, we see God suffering. Suffering over the actions of sin, violence, murder, and abuse. Suffering over the effects of being lost, being broken. And none of them would admit what they were doing was wrong, and that created the greatest suffering we know. Right. Jesus said you can take everything. Right? You can take everything from me. Clothes on my back, my dignity, my character. You can take everything that I have in possessions, but you cannot take away my faith. by faith in God's love. He says, I love God so much, it was God's desire to save you. And you couldn't take that away from him. Because in the midst of all that abuse, he did the will of God anyway. He cured people. He healed people. He blessed people. He rose people back to life. He loved the unlovable. See, God shows us his great compassion, his great love through Jesus Christ. While we were sinning, he forgave us. And then he says, do the same. Do the same. While I'm in the midst of my own sin, you want me to forgive myself for not being like you? He says, of course, because I didn't make you to be like me. I made you to be you, and I have accepted your life the moment I breathed my spirit into it. And it's believing in the lies and the deception and the abuse and the violence that creates the guilt, that creates the shame, which creates the unbelief. The unbelief, right? Peter says to Jesus when they're in the midst of a storm out in the middle of an ocean, and they all see Jesus walking upon the water, doing something that only God can do. Have command over the drips and the droplets of the ocean to where it becomes a solid surface so that he may walk over the sea. And they're terrified. Terrified. We go back to Moses in chapters 5 and 6. And what does Moses say? I want to remove fear. Terrified. They thought they saw a ghost. And then Peter, this man whom Jesus names the rock, Peter, right, says, who are you? And Jesus immediately says, don't be afraid. It is I. I am he. Right? Peter says, well, if you are you, if you are God, if you are the Lord, then tell me to come and I will come. Give me a command and I will obey it. And Jesus says, come. Come. Peter steps out of the boat and takes a few steps on water as though he was God. And then he looks. And he looks to the winds, and he looks to the waves, and he looks to his circumstances, which he is in. I've just put my life on the line for a come. The word come. And he begins to sink. He begins to recognize and realize, I'm not God and I cannot do the things God can do. And he says, this is what I can do. Help me, Lord. And that's what he did. All I can do. Help me, Lord. And immediately Jesus grabs onto Peter. Before he becomes a gurgle or gargle and drowns, he pulls him up. He says, why have you, man of little faith, taken your eyes off me? Me. Your salvation, your Father, your lover, your guide, your strength, your source of everything. You're not me, but you are delivered by me. Put your faith in the deliverance. God's love, mercy, and compassion. So I'm compassionately in love with you. Would I ask you to do something that's going to harm you? It's going to drown you? No, I've asked you to come to a place where you cry out to God and say, help me. Remember me. I'm nothing without God. love. We're nothing without love. I pray and hope I haven't out-talked to myself today, and I hope you come back to see the next videos. We'll try and go through the finishing part of that book. If you'd like to be a part of supporting me in the distribution of this book, I'll be more than welcome to allow you to do that. You know, we're not talking about money. God doesn't need money, and I don't need money. I need ears. I need people who are willing to admit I'm lost, I'm broken, and I want out. I want out of guilt. I want out of shame. I want out of this place where I have become hateful, bitter, disgusted. You know, that's the thing. I can hate this world as much as I want, but this is the world God gave me. And this is the life God has given me. And I should rejoice. We should rejoice in the life we have. The life we have. See you next time.